I would like to just start with your origin story. Who is Derek? I believe your last name. Well, we won't even worry about your last name. Who is Derek? And where are you from? Where were you raised? What kind of worldview were you raised religious? Did you play sports? All that.
Oh wow. Okay. Um, sure. So I grew up in Lowell, Massachusetts, and I was raised Catholic, and I was confirmed that way. Um, and then the deal was with my parents after I got confirmed, it'd be my choice to do what I wanted after that. Um, so I took that agreement, um, and since then I've been off of my own, doing my own thing. Worldview, I was very fortunate. I was raised in a loving home and, two thoughtful parents. Now, I was raised in the 90s in Lowell. So, the environment then was definitely a lot of interesting politics and changes in tech. And definitely worldviews were a certain way. I won't get into political parties and things like that, but I was raised one way, and my views are vastly different, now as an adult, having grown and through my own path and done my own work. Um, and yeah, I think if I were to think about what your next question is, like what got me onto the four agreements.
Well,
Uh,
that's going to be where it ends up leading. But I mean, did you play sports? Were you into arts?
oh yeah, yes, I did play sports. I played football for a bit. I was an avid rock climber for many years. That kind of stopped once I had kids. But until then, I did enjoy lots of outdoor activities. The arts, not so much. I'm someone who appreciates art, but I
Same.
never dove into a lot of the creative aspects unless it was in the digital realm. Um, that said, my wife is a fantastic artist, and I appreciate all her paintings and the things that she does. And I support that with things that I create to help her do those things.
Did you play football in high school and college, or just high school? Or
Yeah, very little in high school.
okay,
Yeah, I'm a big fan of it though, and my older son has taken a liking to it, and he's doing really well. And since sophomore year in high school, and he's on that, and he does flag and 7v7, so he's kind of all over the place doing football.
nice. Staying
Yeah,
active. That's awesome. I love
yeah,
sports in general, so that's just like kind of a personal question I like to ask. I played baseball, golf, basketball growing up, so yeah. Um, and I love football. I just wasn't built for that one. I wasn't really built for basketball, but I'm really good for my build, so I made up for it a little bit more. Um, but anyhow, yeah, man, like you kind of alluded to already. Um, at what point in your life did you find the four agreements, or we could say, did the four agreements find you? Sometimes I
yeah,
feel like it found me.
yeah. I definitely feel like it found me as well. But as I get older, it's harder for me to tell how far back in time things were. But if memory still serves me, it was like maybe 12 years ago. Somebody gave a copy of the Four Agreements to my wife, and they were like, "Oh, hey, you should read this." She was trying to work on something, and she mentioned it to me. She's like, "I think that you would like this." When my wife and I met in college, when I was in college, I was like a psych major first before I changed and graduated. So I was very interested in all those things, and I studied all the greats. Jung, Skinner, Freud, um, and many others. And so I was always interested in that stuff. And so when she talked to me about it, I was like, "Huh, that does seem like an interesting read." And I ended up reading the book before she did, and I was like, "Wow, that's a really interesting book." And I mulled it over. I thought about the principles. I tried to imagine, what a world would be like, and then I didn't think about it again for, I would say, about 6 months. And then I was having some, bad day at work, and I had enough awareness to realize I wasn't in control of how I was responding and reacting. I was being triggered, something was happening, and I really didn't like it. I was like, I don't like that I'm not in control. I don't like that I'm a reactive person. I don't like that other people could push my buttons and then I, go. And so I went back and then I read it again and it felt a little bit different the second time. And then I thought to myself, okay, I really need to learn how to master these things. I really want to figure this out. And then I started reading anything else I could find, in that circle. And so I discovered he had other apprentices who had written books. So I read their books. He had sons, of course, that had read books. I wrote those. I read those. Anything he's touched or his apprentices touched, I just went all the way in and read those. And it just started to make a lot more sense. The That family, that whole community, the Toltec community that we're in, gives you this whole vocabulary to understand how your own mind works. And it's different for everybody, of course, but the terms, once you've sort of mastered the terms and the concepts, you can start to explain things to yourself and others about what's going on. You can start to really unpack, how an agreement might have got there in your mind. And you can learn how to heal it. And that's so incredibly powerful.
And also listen, right? Like as you're saying that, it's like some of those terms, like when I use them, I feel like I'm responsible for what I say, but the other person is not hearing what I'm not listening to what I mean by it. They're taking what they mean by that word, and then they're bending it. And maybe not on purpose. I don't think it's intentional most of the time. I don't think it is intentional, but it's like you're not hearing my intention behind the symbol. You're not actually like being aware of the message beyond the empty symbol itself. Like what makes a word have meaning is the intention behind it. And so when you're speaking there, it's like being able to have that level of awareness to when you're listening, understanding that the person, like when you're talking to me, I understood what you were saying because I mean, obviously we resonate on this stuff as well, but like somebody else who might be more rigid in their like way of thinking might have taken that more like rigidly and logically and analytically, which there's nothing wrong with any of that. But if those terms and their conception of those terms aren't aligned with love, truth, forgiveness, beauty, then it's not going to match what you meant by what you were just saying there.
Yeah. And it's real interesting how that works, isn't it? I mean, even our language, there are so many words that have multiple meanings. And, the way we get domesticated with different concepts, religion, government, science, all of these things are all swimming around in our head. And sometimes you can say one thing and it can have many different meanings. And it all depends on however the person was domesticated that you're talking to, what their experiences are, what their worldview is.
Right. And then
And
not taking that personally when they misconstrue you and recognize, like, that's why I was even able to say just then, it's like, I don't think it's intentional. Even if it feels intentional, it's just a result of their domestication. And if I take it personally, then I'm continuing the cycle. So it's like, I think if they were fully aware of the fact that they are love, they wouldn't purposefully misinterpret what I'm saying or misconstrue what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Mhm. and it's easy for people to get caught in a cycle of victimization if that's what they know. And it's what's perpetuated, right, in our society, and like that the algorithm is meant to like get your attention. Well, rage and anger and victimization gets everyone's attention really quick. And so there's just a lot of that that's propagated right now. It's even monetized.
Oh yeah.
Um, and and it's sad to see, and it's hard to see. And you know, when you've done the work, like as our community has, and you really dove into it, sometimes people with myself anyway, I'll speak for myself, they get a little bothered that I don't react the same way they react to the situation. And I'm like, well, from my understanding, everyone's capable of believing in lies. Everyone's capable of being subjected to propaganda and believing it without realizing it, having those things slip in. And so, even though someone might be very opposed to my values and belief system, I try not to take up a righteous sword and say, no, we shall conquer, because I'm no different. I believed in lies. I believed in things that are untrue, and I even, was ready to fight for those things. And so, how can you be mad at somebody for doing the exact same thing you've done in your own personal journey? It's hard. That said, doesn't mean we still don't get triggered. Doesn't mean we still don't fall into these traps. But we have tools and things we can do to try to bring awareness to it and try to unpack where that's coming from, and really try to dive in and understand it. But yeah, anytime someone is coming from a place of control, right? Like Don Miguel says, like, and Don Jr. says about, trying to put control over someone rather than just meeting them where they're at. We're trained to recognize that right away. We know that's fear, right? Fear is what needs to control something, and anger behind the fear needs to control something.
Yeah, it's the everything you're saying there reminds me of that little blurb. It's only like part of a page, and I think it's the Mastery of Self, but I know it's one of Don Miguel Jr.'s books where he talks about the quest for being right versus the quest for truth. It's like, if you're on the quest to be right, then that's the need to defend what you believe. If you're on the quest for truth, you can just hear somebody else try defending their belief and take a mental note of it. And I respect that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Don't perpetuate the cycle, just like you were just saying. Just okay, I respect that. Yeah, simple as that.
Yeah, I love that point. I can't remember if it was in the same book or not, but there was this other quote that they have, like, you can be right or you can be happy.
Yeah, I love that one too.
Because the part of you that needs to be right needs to have control and needs to validate your worldview, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But someone who's done the work, they understand it's just a belief. It's just knowledge. Knowledge could be right, it could be wrong. Who knows? So can you really jump on that bandwagon?
And even when you say right and wrong, that reminds me of in like The Voice of Knowledge, I think, where he says, even in a clean mirror, right is left and left is right. So even if you're using the words, even if you're using your knowledge to be impeccable, even if you are impeccable with your word, all you're doing is painting a clear reflection with words. It's not actually what happened. You're just recalling what happened, using symbols and sharing that, using our language in a beautiful way, how I feel it is best used impeccably. But even then, it's just left is right and right is left.
I think about that all the time, actually, because I've done some of the mirror work that Don Jose, now known as Jose, goes about. And so, right, you look in the mirror every morning or every evening when you shave or you take care of your face, things that you do. And so you have this mental image of your own face. But the mental image you have of your face actually isn't the same face everyone else sees. Because our mental image is of the mirror, which is, to your exact point, it's flipped. And I don't know if this has happened to you when you've seen yourself on video. You're like, oh, that looks so different than what I think I look like. And it's because it's flipped. So we don't even see ourselves the way the rest of the world does, unless we're used to seeing ourselves on video, not a mirror. And that's the image that we have in our head. And so that's always in the back of my mind. And then another thing is that I wear hearing aids, and so I don't always hear things correctly either. So I'm already not seeing the same thing everyone else is seeing. I also don't hear necessarily the same thing everyone else hears.
But I think about this even with somebody who doesn't have like a hearing aid. Like, are you hearing it exactly how I'm hearing it? Does that color look exactly the same shade as I'm seeing it? The only way that we have agreement is for, I call it pink. You agree that that sound and that symbol means what I'm saying. But like, there's no way to actually know that you're seeing it. Even if you're seeing it similar to me, it's probably not exactly the same when you dial it in like super high definition. You know what I mean? We all probably color our world in, to our own personal. It kind of reminds me of, we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are.
Yeah, that's the filter system, right?
Right.
We filter the world through whatever our beliefs are, whatever the domestications are, whatever the worldviews are. And there are times we're aware of it, and there are times we're not aware of it. That sort of unconscious bias that was put into us from an early age, from where we grew up, our society, the government, the belief system, whatever propaganda is coming our way. And then it colors and filters our view, just like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like you were saying after you read the Four Agreements, you basically started consuming everything that either the other Ruiz family members or other Don Miguel books, or even his apprentices. It sounds like I have a couple by his apprentices, but for me, I just went straight for him and his sons. But
Mm-hmm.
what outside of the Four Agreements, which ones? Because for me, even that list is pretty long, but there is a top tier, and then there's others that they're all great. You know what I mean? But there is probably eight or nine that I would say are like top tier.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, One that I go back to often is the Fifth Agreement.
That's top tier for sure. Beyond Fear is also up there for me, and Voice of Knowledge and Mastery of Love. All of those are definitely just like, phew, you know?
And what makes them so powerful is that they're not long, and it's explained simply. He doesn't spend a lot of
Simplicity.
time over explaining it. He sticks to very simple terms, and he might retell the story in a few different ways. But you know, it's interesting, right? How, how many words can you use and still not get to the truth is what he says, right? And so he says what he needs to say in the fewest words possible.
I know. They even talk about that in Beyond Fear. It's like once you're aware of your energy, you're going to be more efficient with it. You're not going to, I mean, you want simplicity. That's part of efficiency is simplicity. It's like having awareness of your own energetic body, you're embodying your own energy and feeling it and recognizing it and having the awareness of it. Why would you not? Why would you waste it? It doesn't make any sense to waste it. So, yeah.
That's a good point. Like as your awareness grows, you realize that the things that you react to without awareness actually drain your energy. It actually saps it. Um, but if you're able to recognize the situation and respond as a clean mirror, like we talked about, maybe you lose a little bit of energy, but you don't lose nearly the same amount of energy that if you were to just react because of some trigger or something like that. And I like the way you put that. You start to protect your energy and be thoughtful about it.
Yes. Yes. Um, so was that your first visit to Teotihuacan, or I feel like you've been before?
Oh, this past one is my second time to Teo, and I've
Okay.
done quite a few other trips with the family, and I've gone on some of my own, doing other, personal retreats and things like that. But yeah, that whole community, everything they do there is just amazing.
I'm feeling it. I'm feeling that for sure. Um, and yeah, I mean, for me, I'm 36, and this book found me Christmas 2008. So this Christmas will basically be like half my life.
Mhm.
Um, practicing the Four Agreements. And it makes me think about the part in one of the books where he says that in order to break an agreement, or even to make an agreement, you have to, if it overlaps an already established agreement, you have to put as much energy in breaking your old agreements to make space for the new agreement. And so I've been practicing this for 18 years, but I had 18 years of, I was like raised in a military family, so like pretty like strict domestication, pretty like they got me pretty good. You know what I'm saying? Like I was smart, I was intellectual, but like brainwashed to the max. You know what I mean? Go George Bush. You know what I mean? Like all that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So so like the transformation was very like the world flipping upside down type shit for me. Um, which is why when I found the Four Agreements, it was just like you, where I just was like, okay, I got the Voice of Knowledge, I got the Mastery of Love. I was listening to the Voice of Knowledge and the Four Agreements all the time during that, introduction to it. And then the Fifth Agreement came out like maybe little after 2 years after I got introduced. And that one was just so perfect for me. There's a few parts in that book where that stand out. Um, One is he says that he resists using the word God, even though Don Miguel uses it all the time. And I'm all good with that. But because of that 2.5, 2 year gap of me talking to friends about it, I had noticed that there's people out there that will just boom, they're not listening as soon as they hear the word God. Boom, not listening. Just shut off everything else you're about to say. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
so that part of the fifth agreement where Jose was like, I just prefer the word love. Like that's a symbol that resonates more with what it really is to me.
Mhm.
And the symbol God is corrupted, so I resist using it. And I loved that because he wasn't going off of Toltec. He wasn't like veering away from Toltec beliefs. He's just saying, no, I have a different agreement regarding the symbol about reality or the nature of reality or our creator or whatever you want to call that. I'm
Mhm.
not, I don't like the word God. And I feel the same way, even though I'm okay with the word God. And if I hear somebody else use it, I don't necessarily feel that strongly. But I also agree that when I'm using the word, I do like the word love better because I agree that it does seem to resonate the symbol, the sound, at least in our culture and in our connotation, our modern context, it does seem to get at what I'm talking about a little bit more accurately than the symbol God, which seems to be very frazzled and distorted across different people's perspectives and perceptions. Even the word love is corrupted, but I think it's less corrupted. And I think people at least know what you're trying to point at with that symbol.
Yeah, I I completely agree. I One of the things that got me so hooked on these books is how he just uses common sense to explain some things that are very heavy and hard, right? God being one of them. That's one of those major domestications. And it
Yes.
starts before you can even speak. You're exposed to all the rituals and the things of whatever sort of religion and belief and practice you are part of. And then that goes down to our core, it goes to our identity. And if someone hasn't been doing the work of you know finding out what's true within themselves and realizing where they might be domesticated, realizing where they might be working against themselves, that's very scary, and it can be existential to the point where they're like, I'm not talking about this, because to question it is so uncomfortable, and it makes them question whether the things they've been doing is right or wrong, right? And then boom, it's like you just get this hard no. And that's how heavy and strong the domestication is on a word most people don't necessarily have a common agreement with. Different religions have their own concepts of what it is, and other people do too. And I agree, like I think love comes the closest. um but it, explaining it and using words to explain, that which is all the things. It's always going to be imperfect because it's an abstraction, right? Just like how I like how he talks, how Don Miguel talks about, it's like trying to explain a color using music, or trying
Yeah.
to it.
No, it's like if somebody's living in the world of sound, if they're living in their story and you try
Mhm.
to explain light to them, the only way to do that is to use sounds to do it. So it's like you can point them to it,
Mhm.
but it's their choice to look or not. And then even if they look, are they seeing it or are they seeing it through, like you were talking about earlier, that filter
Mhm.
of their knowledge and their belief system? And that actually leads into the other thing that I was going to say about the fifth agreement is that chapter, becoming a seer.
Mhm.
It's like just seeing and silencing the voice of knowledge and just letting the light reflect your eye, off of your eyes and being light. It's
Mhm.
like tuning into that frequency. and
Mhm.
and it's just pure awareness, pure authenticity. It reminds me of the smoky mirror story. It's like you know everything, but there's no words to explain it, because as soon as you begin to put it into words, you've all in that attempt, you've already distorted the knowledge, the silent knowledge, the intuition, the knowing without knowing how you know.
Yes. Yes, the way I think about it sometimes, and the way I've explained it uh, to others, is that the part of our mind that forms words, it's actually that you're creating when you're speaking. You're using your energy to create. So when your mind is tapped in sort of a creation mode, you're not receiving. When you're thinking, you're not watching, you're not observing, you're not listening. Your mind is engaged in an act of creation. And when you're using words, you actually can't perceive everything around you, and you can't perceive everything that there is. And so,
Yep.
in order to be in that state, the mind needs to be silent for you to be in a total state of awareness where you're able to perceive the things. And in that state, the knowings happen because you're not thinking about it. It's able to reach those parts of your mind that are just receiving all of this information, and then out of nowhere the answer sort of pops up. But if we're sitting and we're listening to somebody and we're thinking about what to say and what to respond, and we're using that part of our mind to create, it's not receiving, it's not seeing the whole picture, it's not understanding all the other things happening. It might not pick up on tone of voice, it might not pick up on the look on their face, it might not pick up on other sounds in the room. You might miss a whole lot of what's happening in the moment. And in that moment, as soon as you go to speak, your awareness drops down. So yeah, it's tricky. How do you explain something that can only be felt with words, which can't be felt, but point to the feeling? Yeah.
Right. No, it's like so I'm going to make an analogy here. It's like, you know how they talk about the light spectrum and we only see like
Mm-hmm.
0.4% of it or whatever. I think there's an emotional spectrum, and we in the English language might have, I don't know. I'm not I might you know, if you want to you could Google it real quick. I'm not going to worry about it, but let's just say 500 words that point toward an emotion. That's still like less than like percentages of a percentage point of the entire spectrum of emotions. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like happy is just one point on that entire spectrum. There's like, you know what I mean? Everything in between all of these words that we've created. And even then you talk about like my where I plot happiness on that spectrum might not be exactly where you plotted on that spectrum. So it's like even trying to like graph this stuff or make it analytical or like you know what I'm saying, bring hard logic and try to make it empirical data. Like it's beyond its own nature.
Yeah, I think it's normal too for humans to try to quantify and analyze what they don't understand or they can't perceive. Um, and our society encourages that, right? It doesn't encourage us to drop in and feel. It encourages us to analyze and have an overview of data. And it's interesting. I mean, there's a balance because there's a whole lot of things that require you to drop in and feel instead of analyzing and looking at data. Um, the part of us that's doing the analyzing could be using a filter that's a domestication that actually works against us. And so silencing the mind and then dropping in to see how you really feel and starting from there really is what leads to the truth, right?
Yes. I think he says somewhere in Beyond Fear, like he's not dismissing reason. He's saying like restore it to its proper place. Like we have this function or this faculty in our mind, in our brain. I would argue it's not in our brain, but in our mind. And when that function or faculty is a clear reflection of what we've been talking about, of love, of beauty, of truth, and you're able to use the reason to navigate any situation or circumstance in your life to remain in alignment, that's to me that's the proper place of reason. There's nothing wrong with reason if you're reasoning your way to truth, if you're reasoning your way to love, if you're reasoning your way to connection with your creator, right? Whatever that which is beyond words, which we've been talking about in this whole conversation.
Mm.
I don't think it's that, oh, reason's an enemy. I don't like it when people are like intuition over reason. It's like, no, align your reason with your intuition. Intuition is primary. I agree with that. That's what you were just talking about, is that how it's primary. If you want to really know what you want in life, if you want to really be real with yourself, you have to shut your mind off and feel, and recognize that feeling, become aware of that feeling, and just feel it all the way through. There's no words to really be able to put on that. And that's what you were alluding to as well. But then when you come back to this world of data analysis and people trying to quantify and measure everything, now you have a home base or a North Star to understand where and how you want your reason to operate and what you want that pointing toward.
Absolutely. And that's the voice of knowledge, right? Is knowledge using you, or you using knowledge? What you just described is, I think of it in a way too, that when we're still working on something that's domesticated into us, when we receive something, we get triggered. That's when knowledge is using us, right? Because when you were speaking, what I was thinking of is like, well, yes, the victim uses reasoning, so does the judge.
Right, exactly.
And the victim finds reasons to stay the victim, and the
Right.
judge finds reasons to stay judging. So reason can be used against us,
Right.
when the victim and judge are
Right.
picking up that torch and running with it.
Just like how doubt can be used against us when we doubt our connection to our creator. But then when we doubt all of the lies, we return to that connection to our creator. So doubt's a double-edged sword, reason's a double-edged sword. What you were saying just there kind of made me think about how even knowledge, right? Like they even say, I think he says in the voice of knowledge, like there's nothing wrong with knowledge itself. It's that knowledge is infected with a virus that we call lies. So then the question is, well, how do you tell the difference between truth and lies? And I just alluded to that, is doubt. You doubt, if you actually apply doubt to everything, that's the fifth agreement. Be skeptical. That's fine. Be skeptical of everything you hear, of everything you see, of everything you believe. That's fine, because the truth will survive your skepticism and lies will dissipate if you don't believe it. The lies need you to, they feed on your belief. You know what I'm saying? Like, they survive off of your belief. The truth is the truth. If you don't, truth don't care if you have belief in it or not. It'll still be the truth.
Absolutely. And one of the things I love about Don Miguel is he's like, don't believe me.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
And that makes me trust him more, because if he's saying, hey, don't believe me, have that self-doubt, question everything, question yourself, because we talk to ourselves all the time, right? Are what we saying to our own selves true? Is the things that we're saying, I'm not good enough, I can't do this thing, is that true? Or is that maybe a parent or coworker or a friend who got into your head and told you couldn't do those things? So yeah, we definitely use knowledge against ourselves, and knowledge can hijack our mind, especially if the victim's in charge or the judge, and then it just runs forward. But if something happens, and even if someone is, disrespecting us, if we don't react to that, if we pause for a moment, sometimes you can understand it in that moment. Oh, this isn't about me. And when you can see that, you can start to see the greater picture. Maybe something happened just before. Maybe this person's, got some, you can look at them a little bit differently and say, oh, they've got something else going on here. Doesn't matter who was standing right here. That person was going to do what they were going to do. It's not about me. But when you take it personally, you jump right into victim judge, and that starts swirling around. You miss the bigger picture.
Now you've entered a war of control, or
Right.
a war for control.
Who's right? Who's wrong?
Right.
Yeah, and it's a slippery slope, and you don't always know when it's happening. And I think most people don't know when it's happening. It's
No, I know, and that leads to what I was saying earlier. It's like, even when it feels intentional, if these people had the awareness that they are love, do you really think that they would choose to act like that? And then just reminding yourself of that allows you to have compassion for them. And it reminds me of, everything is either an act of love or a call for love. And that's just a call for love. That's all that is. And reminding yourself of that is just very, it makes me feel very compassionate. It's like I almost feel sorry, I almost feel pity for you, but I stop short of that because it's like, if I can do it, then I know you can do it. So I'll respect you, and I'm not gonna like push your buttons and like start spitting four agreements facts at you right now. You know what I mean? I've learned to move with a little bit more tact than that at this point. But um, you know, just don't take it personally and keep it moving. And maybe at the right time, they'll recognize, like, hey, you were actually really cool when I was tripping, like, and then they might say, what do you do to like help yourself say, or they might just show interest. And instead of, you don't even have to talk to them, but just the way that you are interest them. And then eventually it might be the right time to start talking about that kind of stuff. But
Yeah. Yeah. You bring up a great point. And sometimes how we respond can actually snap somebody into awareness, right? Because if they're responding in anger or fearful way, and you respond in kind, then you're just reinforcing whatever's going on in their mind, whatever their worldview is, whatever their bad dream that's happening. But if you respond with kindness, or like you said, compassion, it can be such a break in the
I've,
expectation,
I've
right?
literally seen it before.
Yeah, it kind of stops people, and it just doesn't compute for a second. And that
Yeah,
in that,
they're like, I'll go to give them a hug. I'm sorry to cut you off, but
yeah,
this is an example that's just popping in my head visually. Is like, I went to give this person a hug when they were flipping out on me, and they were like I could see them like shake, and like, oh, I'm the one fucking up right now. Like he's trying to give me a hug. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it was cool to literally see that, and you know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't any words for it. It was just I saw and literally, like you said, snap out of it.
yeah, and it happens because it's so unexpected that it makes them question everything that's happening in the moment. Wait a minute, why is this person reacting this way when they should be reacting this way? Because I'm this way. But when I'm this way and they do something different, it's like, wait a minute, what's going on? Um, and I like that you brought up compassion, because I think that's a tricky one, I think, for many people. And I myself learned to become more compassionate when I healed the things inside myself. If I saw someone else going through something that I didn't know how to handle, it was hard for me to have compassion for them. I might have a hard time even looking at them, and I might just like, run away or walk away because I don't know how to process it. But
It's
when you
making you feel uncomfortable.
exactly. And
Yeah.
so I think many people struggle with compassion just because there's things we haven't sorted out in ourselves. There's things we haven't healed or understood how to heal. But when you've done it and you've sat in that space, whatever that space is, for a while, you felt it, you know what it feels like, and you know how to get out of it. That's when you can sit there with somebody else and go through it. But until you've done that work yourself, it's hard to do that. So what most people will do is they'll distract somebody, like, "Oh, you're crying. Let me get you some water. Let's get a tissue, whatever." They're not okay just letting them sit through it, because it makes them uncomfortable, right? But when you've done the work and you realize, nope, this is how the process happens, and you just got to let it out and trust that the person will get through it. You can support them and help them unpack it, but not until you've healed yourself.
That one hit home for me because I mean, I had good intentions, so I forgive myself. But like with my ex, I would always just like, "What can I do for you? What can I do for you?" When all I needed to do was be there and shut up and hold space, as they say. But it was just like I wanted to solve the problem when the way to solve the problem was just to presence, not doing. Being, not doing. So that one hit me, but I mean, it's 100% true, and I've learned from it, and I've evolved. But that's a tough one because, like I said, even when you have the best of intention, if you're not aware of like they don't need you to do anything right now, they just need you to be there. So it's an awareness practice. Like I didn't have the awareness. I just had good intention and kind of a stubborn problem solving, we need to get this solved now sort of thing. It's like there's no urgency. You know what I mean? That was the issue was, it doesn't need to be solved now, and trying to solve it now is kind of like Chinese handcuffs.
Yeah, I like that analogy. Is yeah, the more you push the thing, actually, gentleness is what gets you out of the trap. The more you use force, the more it sticks.
Yeah.
And I think that's true for, you know, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but a lot of guys in general, especially, the generations that we're in, we were raised to sort of,
Solve
be
problems,
solve
STEM,
problems, be,
math, technology, science.
and if, someone's upset and our default isn't to sit there with them to help them through it, but our default is to fix it, um, then we just sort of get into that rescuer mode. And that's something I'm recovering from. Even as a leader of people, you know, rescuing people actually ruins their growth and development. You think you're doing the right thing because you're solving a problem, which we're conditioned to do. We're conditioned to solve problems. And if you're an achiever like me, it's like you want to solve a lot of problems. And so it's like next, 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 next. But problems like this, you can't do that. Problems are the hard problems that people are going through. That's not something you can just swoop in and be like, I'm going to fix it. Because as soon as you try to fix it, you're actually taking that person's power away to fix it themselves.
And you're taking their life personally, their choices, their decisions, their worldview, all their lifestyle. You're taking all of that personally, and you're taking responsibility for something that's not your responsibility.
And it's so subtle, isn't it? And we were conditioned that way as kids.
Yeah.
Go help that person. Go take care of them. Go fix the thing that's making them upset. Uh, at least that's where I was raised.
Yeah. No, I think it's not just America. I think it's like a Western European America, like the first world. It's a first world mindset,
Mm.
problem solving.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of interesting sort of default biases and domestications that we have in genders and societies and different classes. They all have their strengths and their gifts, and they all have their curses that you got to sort of sort through to figure it all out.
No doubt. No doubt. So how do you, I guess, just on a day-to-day basis, because it sounds like to me, and I'm in the same boat, right? Like there's all of this wisdom, because it's not just information, it's like it's like information that's rich, super, super rich.
Mm.
So for me, sometimes it's like I want to just hone in on certain, and I've already touched on them, but are there certain passages or certain concepts or certain parts or pieces of this wisdom that you use as like your mantra, or like you always remind, these are the few ones that you focus on to always remember, to always have an awareness practice of, I guess, favorite
Mm.
concepts or favorite pieces of this wisdom?
Yeah, they change for me, and the reason why they change is it's depending on whatever I'm going through.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm following, the teachings, following some of the courses, doing the trainings with different family members, hanging out with some of the apprentices, just learning, you know, something they teach and we all do is we figure out what are the things, what are the little rituals we can do for ourselves, what are the tools, how do we make our own medicine, um, and different things work for everyone. Sometimes it's some people want prayers, some people do mantras, some people do malas, and they count through those. I started with malas and having certain mantras, and I find now that just wearing them is enough most days to keep me in a good state. Just because I've just touching them and going through that process and dropping in, it's like I sort of conditioned myself to be in a more calm and neutral state. Just feeling them sometimes is enough. when it isn't, I use this as a tool. Um, but for me right now, the favorite is I like going through the circle of fire sort of prayers in the morning, and I try to feel into it, as it's happening. And another favorite I have right now is my spiritual brother Adrian gave me this idea. So this is the Eye of Ra, and I use this as a power object. And power objects are just there to remind you of a teaching, right? To remind you of a thing. And so I use this to remind me to observe what's happening, but don't absorb it. Because when I absorb it, I can react and lose my awareness of what's going on
Get lost
and
in the dream.
get lost in the dream. So this is a favorite of mine right now because that's what I'm spending a lot of time working on this. Sometimes I just feel things before I can register what's happening. And so I've learned now, to recognize what's happening, and I'll often sometimes just grab this. If something heavy's happening, I'll be like, oh, okay, observe right now what's happening. Listen to your body. Why is your body doing that? Why are you feeling that? What are you picking up on? So, observe, don't absorb is a big one for me. And then, not taking it personally is something I always am thankful for and thinking about. And I think that's probably the one I go back to the most. That's the favorite because that not taking it personally allows you to question what's happening, and so you can check your assumptions when you're not taking it personally. And then when you respond when you're not taking it personally, you're being impeccable. So that one I think really get a lot of bang for your buck with that one and how it affects the others. Doing your best is just sticking to the practice, doing something every day, no matter what, to take care of yourself, and just sticking to it. Um, really stress that one to anyone because if you can just do one thing to take care of yourself every day and you do that one thing no matter what every single day, it can be a 1 to 3 minute thing. You just do that one thing, whether you're sick or not sick. If you're breathing, you're doing this thing every day. If you can do that, you can build on it. Even on your worst day, if you just do that one thing you did to take care of yourself, you won. You're like, okay, I did the thing to take care of myself. And so I mix and match, different tools and different things depending on whatever I'm working on right now, what my thing is. Long answer to your question, but I hope it answers your question.
No, it gave me a few different thoughts. I would say the fourth agreement is my favorite because it's about that action. Like the other ones are in your head. And then among the four agreements, with the fourth agreement, I would actually have as my favorite now. But when I first started, I would have agreed with you. I think out of the ones that are mental, out of the first three anyway, don't take anything personally. I mean, it's immunity in hell. It's immunity in the dream of hell. So you're immune to everybody's judgments, criticisms, whatever. You're just immune to every psychological, energetic like force that's trying to interact with your mind. You know what I mean? So that's beautiful. And my friend, my brother Aaron, who introduced me to the four agreements, he has "don't take anything personally" tattooed on his bicep. And he said, yeah, when I read it, like there's near the end of the chapter, he says, like, write this agreement down and put it on your refrigerator so you don't forget. Don't take anything personally. He was like, fuck that. I'm putting it on my skin. I'm never going to forget. And I was like, hell yeah, dude. So that's awesome. And then the reason, the fourth, when I think of the fourth agreement, because everybody you hear do your best in all sorts of positivity circles, all sorts of spiritual circles. But I think what separates the fourth agreement from the typical cliche of do your best is if you're doing your best, you don't have energy left to judge yourself for not doing your best. So if you even have one moment of self-doubt or self-judgment, then you're not doing your best. That's how you know that you're not doing your best. That's proof right there, because you shouldn't even have energy for that. You should be working toward whatever it is you're looking to accomplish. And I should not say should be, but if that's your choice, if that's the agreement that you've made, if that's your genuine desire coming from your authentic self, and that's the goal that you're looking to accomplish, then there's no reason, there should be no energy for self-doubt, because you should be spending that energy doing your best.
Yes. And doing your best is a recognition of your intent. So if
Beautifully put. Those are rich words right there.
thank you. If you're true to your intent in there's an outcome that happens that you didn't expect, then you can take that as a learning and be comfortable that you did your best.
Have you ever read The Alchemist?
I have. It's a great book.
Yes, because what you just said is like exactly that story. He does his
Yes.
best to find the treasure. It's not what he expected, but he still found the treasure because he went on that journey,
Yeah.
because he did his best.
Yes, that's a great example. That's such a great callback, and that's a great example of doing your best with your heart open, with just an intent. But we have in our mind, right? Like our knowledge creates and projects the way something should be if we have an intent. But the way it really works is we have an intent, and then the universe just responds how it responds. And if we can recognize that, if we can see it, then we move effortlessly, right? And things
Yep.
work out. But if we don't recognize that, and what
If
we
we
see
take it
is
personally, if we resist, if we
taking it
make if
personally.
we believe the assumptions that we're making, dream of hell.
Yes. And then it's a dream of lack, right? A dream of not enough, all of those things. And then the judge or the
Fear,
victim, right?
anxiety, victimization, judgment. Yep, all that.
And then before you know it, there's a storm in the mind of all those things, the bad weather.
Yeah, man. Well, look, I don't want to keep you much more. I think, like we were talking about with the books, they're short and sweet, profound and rich. I think this has been a really rich conversation. I really do appreciate your time. This was wonderful. I've been clipping. I don't know if you follow, if you have Instagram or YouTube. If you follow me, I've been putting more shorts out and clips. I used to resist it. Like I never even had TikTok. I finally gave in and just got it just to post clips from my podcast.
Mhm.
Because although I prefer long form, just like we were talking about earlier, like everybody has different preferences. Everybody has different filters through which they're seeing the world. And I've just come to accept that, like, in order to reach more people, like there's people out there that are looking for shorts. They might eventually look at your long form content if enough of your clips catch their eye or catch their ear. So
Yeah.
I finally gave in to making clips, and I think I'm going to get a lot of great clips out of this one, man. This was like,
Wow.
we're right at an hour, and I think it's just like I could chop this into like 40 clips, and it would be great, dude. So
Love
thank
it.
you so much. But before we hop off of here, is there any lasting wisdom you want to leave us with?
Ooh, well, before I leave lasting wisdom, I just do want to say, thank you for doing what you're doing. Um, this work is so important, and I think it's really great to get the message out, give people something to listen to. Those that are in your circle, your sphere, if they catch on, they like what they hear. It's a great
Ripples of wisdom,
ripples, right? But it's also a great antidote to what's happening right now
the
in
chaos.
the chaos and the chaos full of lies that are being perpetuated by different algorithms that are manipulating us through fear to do things that work against ourselves. And like these conversations, really pulling together lots of different tools and ways of being. I think it's a great antidote. So it's really important work, and thank you for doing it. And I'm grateful for us spending our time together and you inviting me on. I think this is wonderful. So first, I want to say thank you for that. And the parting wisdom. As soon as you said that, this is what like jumped into my head right away. Is that all this work that we do, we use a lot of words, but in the end, it's about how you feel. And so, you know, uh, people forget what you say. People even forget what you do, but they never forget how you make them feel. And if we go through life knowing that, and we set our intention on, using our voice to support ourselves and others, and we set our intention on operating from a place of unconditional love and abundance, you can live in a way that's more effortless. You can live in a way that there's more peace, and you actually just attract more of it to you. So my parting words of wisdom, and these aren't my words, many other masters have said this, but people won't remember what you say, but they'll always remember how you made them feel.
And I hate to do this to you, but right when you started talking, I was like, you know what? I do have a bonus question for him.
All right.
Um, because you were talking about the work that I do, and specifically, I work with cannabis, and I know that that can ruffle some feathers. And I know even in Beyond Fear, he talks about like the ancient Toltec worked with plant medicine, and basically he's chosen to not do that. And I highly respect that because of the effectiveness of what he's doing. And the further I get along in this journey, and even, when I connect with cannabis, sometimes it's like the message that I'm getting is that life is a trip.
Mm.
This might enhance or like make clearer some things for you. And it does operate as a medicine, in my opinion, and a lot of therapeutic medicine in a lot of different ways. And I'm a proponent of responsible use of mushrooms and ayahuasca, and especially earth medicines. The other ones, a little bit more debatable. But I just wanted to get your opinion on that. Because I mean, I'm open to people who are not for that, but I kind of like to hear everybody's opinion on that, since that is part of what I do.
Yeah, but fair question, and I'm happy to answer it. I think cannabis is far less dangerous than alcohol,
Yeah.
and I think it has many more medicinal purposes and applications. Like anything, like any treatment, you know, um, more than what you need becomes abuse.
Mm.
Um, and alcohol can be abused. So can any normal drug. And the labels we put on it, right, is knowledge and domestication, and sometimes things were considered bad for different reasons, right? Like we won't go into the back history of why cannabis was put into law and all those things, but you know,
Racism.
right?
Yeah.
So
Especially against Mexicans.
and others.
Specifically against Mexicans. I mean, the word marijuana was literally a slang word that Harry Anslinger came up with to have the press put all this propaganda about marijuana out there, because they knew if they used the word hemp or cannabis, that farmers would not. They know what that is, and they're gonna be like, no, there's too many positive applications to this. But you call it marijuana, they don't know what you're talking about. It sounds like some Mexican drug that people are going crazy and raping white women and killing people. It's like, yeah, those are lies. You know what I mean? Ultimately. And I'm really glad that you brought up the addiction aspect. And this wasn't my intention when I created this podcast, but it just maps perfectly into who I am and what I'm about, and that's balance.
Mm.
And part of my work is like that's one of the modalities that I'll work with, is like for people who feel dependent or addicted. I don't think the word addicted is an accurate word, but that's another discussion for another day. I think bonding, we've broken our tribe up and we're so individualistic that I think what most people call drug addiction is actually a desire to bond with something, with anything, to feel relief through that. It's the same like oxytocin chemical that we get from actually having like close families and a close tribe. So there's this, if you want to look more into this, there's an experiment they did in the 70s called the Rat Park experiment,
Mhm.
because the hard science of the day was saying that, addiction comes from, you do the drug, there's a chemical reaction going on in your brain, it makes you want more. And that's why if you do cocaine or heroin, you're just going to want to do more cocaine and heroin. But this one doctor was like, well, the way the experiment is set up is they only have a choice between water and then drugs, and they're in an empty, isolated cage with nothing to do. Like, what if we set up a world where all the rats have cheese and other rats to play with and wheels, and they called it Rat Park? And none of the rats even cared about the drug water, because they had everything that made them happy. They had everything that made a rat's life fulfilling. And if we have a tribe where we can rely on other people to talk about our desires and our concerns, and people don't have that anymore. A lot of people don't have that. They've become we're kind of like living in isolated cages, especially when you think about like urban apartment living and stuff like that. It's like, I went on a little bit of a rant there, but my point is there's a balance to what we call addiction as well. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm pretty anti-pharmaceutical. I think there are temporary uses where it can be beneficial if you have a plan to get off of it, from the beginning. But with plant medicines, I just find a balance to be struck, and everybody's balance is personal. If you have cancer, that balance is going to be a lot different than for, somebody who's completely well versus somebody who has arthritis versus somebody who has Crohn's disease. Like, the balance is personal, but if you feel like you're not accomplishing what you need to in life, or you're giving up things that you actually want to smoke cannabis, like, that's, if once it's become a problem, I actually work with people on that too. Yeah, it's all about using it properly and dialing it into what's benefiting your life and being real with yourself about, is it benefiting your life? And just having that honest conversation with yourself and embodying, feeling all of your cells. Where are you holding tension in your body? Like Michelle talked about, she needed to heal her back, and her practitioner was like, we need to work on your anger. You know what I mean? And that's where I think plant medicine can have when you set the intention of being real with yourself, it can kind of help clear that fog faster, let's say.
Yeah. It's definitely a complex issue, and one that I think is greatly misunderstood by many. And like anything else, any medicine, any plant medicine, anything that we use can be used against us if we're not thoughtful about it, and we're not careful. And that goes to that applies to anything, right? And there are common over the counter drugs that
Sex, gambling, these aren't
yeah,
substances, but it's clearly addiction. You know what I mean? So it's like
right.
there's always biochemical, or even the conversation we're having right now, sober as can be, but there's still biochemical reactions going on. It's just, that's what we are. That's what our bodies are. Even in a sober state, we're still having a psychedelic experience. I mean, when you think about DMT, like, that's that's the crazy conversation there. I don't even want to get into right now, but it's like, the sober state is a psychedelic experience. And that is why I love the Ruiz family and the work that they're doing. It's because although they've chosen not to go the plant medicine route, they recognize that life is a trip, and they're teaching the integration. So whether
Right.
you're on plant medicine, regardless of the journey that you're on, it's about applying this stuff rigorously. Like, whether you're doing it at a fast pace, a slow pace, everybody's journey is their own. But what's real is what's real. What's true is what's true. It goes back to the skepticism thing. Like, the truth will survive your skepticism.
That's right. And this is a dream. And we're dreaming when we're awake, and we're dreaming when we're sleeping. Um, when we're sleeping, there's no rules of
Material frame.
yeah, there's time and space and all that's highly manipulatable. But when we're awake, there's rules and laws. But our mind is still doing the same thing. It's still projecting ideas and thoughts. It's still filtering the view. We just don't think of it that way, because we think, oh, when we're sleeping, we're dreaming. But when we're awake, we're dreaming too. We're just plugged in more to what's happening in the environment.
Have you ever looked into, and he mentions this in Beyond Fear, Rupert Sheldrake's work called Morphic Resonance?
No, I'll have to write that one down.
Yeah, so look at the beginning of Beyond Fear. Don Miguel actually mentions morphic resonance. It's the only time I've ever seen it mentioned in his work, but you got it. It's one of my favorite videos on the internet. Rupert Sheldrake is the guy who came up with this idea. And he has a TED talk that got banned because he's literally questioning, like, the physics, our accepted physics of the day. And what you were just talking about there, it's like, yes, there is a material frame, and there are these things that we call laws of nature, but he's arguing that they're actually more like habits. And this is kind of what Don Miguel is getting at with, like, when you really start to deconstruct this thing, it's like our agreements are even in a way holding our physics together.
Or our belief about the physics, right?
Right. Exactly. Our
Yeah.
agreements, and, well, I mean, what is an agreement? It's a belief. You know what I mean? So it's like, once you've agreed, you've invested your faith, you've invested your belief, and like what we think of as the material frame is actually just a web of collective agreements. You gotta check it out, man. You gotta check out Morphic Resonance. But his video, the band TED Talk, which is one of my favorite videos on the internet, is called The Science Delusion. And he talks a little bit about these like phenomena, like how the sense of being stared at. Like we all know this, what I'm talking about, but it's like conceptual physics or like classical physics has no answer for how that's even a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But recognizing another consciousness is got its attention fixed on you.
Yes. And he theorizes that the reason for this is it evolved out of like predator-prey relationships. So prey that could feel the gaze of a predator would be more likely to survive. So over time, we've evolved to be able to feel when people are looking at us because it's like a survival instinct. It's not even a conscious thing. But yeah, man, we were about to wrap it up and then I started rambling. I apologize for that, but I'm going to let you go. This was a wonderful conversation and thank you again.
Of course. It was really great talking to you, and peace and love, my man. Thank you so much.
Peace and love, bro.
All right, take care.
Do you believe in repent? What if the kingdom of heaven's within you? Do you think you would enter, huh? What do you know, huh? How do you know truth? From the pit of your soul or just cause somebody told you? Do you think about what you think about? Do you see yourself in the people that you hang around? Keep quiet, let me think aloud. Listen up, wanna break it down and question your perceptions. I'ma break it down and question your perceptions. Do you ever question your perceptions? Do you ever question it all? Yeah. What if your money was worthless? Then would you know what your worth is and reconsider living with a purpose? How would you determine what work is? Are you seeking what's easy to purchase, or is it deeper than what's on the surface? Do you question your perceptions? Ever so is real, huh? It ain't your politicians, nor your status. All of that is fiction, so it's real, huh? It ain't your entertainment, nor the industry. I heard it's filled with fake shit. I need truth over everything. Yeah. I need truth above all else. I need truth over everything. Yeah, give me the truth, give me the truth, give me the truth, yeah.